Hi everyone, Maria here, Restore Balance and Harmony. Welcome to another episode of our Becoming Me series, where we're talking to real women who have had real emotional issues, but have found something that really worked to help them to get back onto their journey of being all that they want to be. And today I have the absolutely amazing Leanne with me. Hi, how are you, Leanne?
Oh, Maria, I'm fabulous. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank you for being here all the way in Queensland.
Yes.
So nice to have you. We've been friends for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that.
It's a bit longer than that, but who's counting?
Goes too fast, doesn't it, these days?
I know.
So tell us a bit about yourself, Leanne, and what was your major struggle before you started on your journey with Creatrix?
Well, when I started my Creatrix journey, Maria, I was actually running in a group called Winona Group, which was a social gathering group for women. And I wasn't quite, even though my events were busy, every 2 months I ran them, and I usually had about 50 women at the gatherings, and they were social. It was a social networking group actually, where business women came in to show everyday women what they had that could help them in their life. And that was actually where I met Marilyn Shermer, because she was one of the guest speakers at one of my events on International Women's Day, way back in 2013. So my journey's been going for quite some time then, but I could never really, even though the events were really going great, I could never really crack, for want of a better term, what I wanted to do. And then Marilyn Shermer came to my event, and I listened to her talk intently, one, because she was my guest speaker, and secondly, because she really had some valuable things to say about personal development for women, especially with Creatrix.
And that's that for women is a big thing that we've noticed since then, but it's continued to grow, and we've continued to educate ourselves along the lines of how different we are as women. So when did you first have your breakthrough, and can you remember some of the issues that you worked on that helped you crack that, as you were saying?
Oh, yes. Well, it was not long after Maz spoke at my event, actually. She was kicking off her first retreat for would-be Creatrix facilitators. So I stepped into that. And some of my issues, because then I went through at the time, I went through and I went through all her 3 levels. But because every time I went back, I seemed to have more, because, I learned that emotions within women are like layers. You peel back some, and then others come forward. You get rid of something and something flies off with it. You think, oh, well, that's gone. But my biggest issues were betrayal was huge for me. And I'd had a lot of sadness and grief in my life as well. And that had really kept me being less than I actually realized. So even though I'd lost my sister, and I'd lost my dad, and a few things, and a couple of best friends to cancer, and you push through those times when you lose someone very dear, but a part of you goes too with them, and I didn't realize how much I needed to get that part of me back. And Creatrix allowed that to happen. Creatrix allowed me to set my heart free, and set those people free that had gone. And even though my my heart, it's hard for me to talk about this even now, but Creatrix healed it so much. I'd lost a lot of people that I held dear, and Creatrix allowed me to let them free, recreate a space for them in my heart, though, that allowed me to carry on without the heavy burdens of grief.
I think
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, yeah, and I fully understand. I've just recently lost a cousin, a very, very close, we're a year apart growing up and spent a lot of time. And I think for a lot of people, the thing is that they don't realise that there is another way to be after you've lost someone like that. It's believed, I guess, that you just have to get used to that new way of being when you're in that pain and you're learning a new way of living, and you carry that burden with you forever. Where for me, because I know when I did Creatrix, grief was one of the very first things that I did as well, and it took me from having this pain that was so deep, and so it was like right down in my gut. It was deep, and crying all the time whenever I had a memory of this person. But now I can smile. I'm talking about someone I lost 10 years ago. It's their 10th anniversary coming up. I can smile and I can talk about them without that pain in my gut. It doesn't mean I don't miss them, but I have a different way, and a healthy way, I think, a happy way. I remember him with joy, that he was a part of my life, instead of that really deep, intense pain.
Yes.
Which, a lot of people probably don't, unless you've been able to let it go, you don't realise that it is possible.
Well, I think grief can take such a surreptitious grip on you, and you don't realise, because of course it's going to be raw for a long time, and you have to allow yourself that time. But sometimes you can get into that way of being, and you don't even realise that you're getting around a little bit hunched over, or not seeing things clearly anymore, because it tends to give you a bit of a cloud over things, doesn't it, grief? And then after I had Creatrix, everything just lifted. I actually stood up straight for the first time in years. And I remember after my course driving home, and the world just seemed brighter. Like everything had more vivid, the colours were more vivid even, and my peripheral vision was greater. And I didn't realise that I had been kind of in this narrow tunnel, even though I thought I was getting around in my day-to-day life fine.
Dealing
with it. I was actually had myself in this tunnel that kind of had walls up, like, it's raw, don't come near me, I'm already hurt, so I'm just staying in my tunnel of safety, whereas Creatrix just burst through those walls. And like you, I now have very fond, happy memories, and can talk about the ones that I've lost dearly and openly, and with no sadness. And I'm sure that those that I've lost in heaven would be happy that I'm doing that too, and I'm not stuck down the tunnel still. It definitely lifts that cloud, and it's like I have no shadows anymore.
And I think I've always, the people who have gone, who loved us, would want what's best for us, for us to go on and to be happy and live the best life and all of that. And you can say that logically, but after Creatrix, that's what you're able to do. And I was the same as you, where I literally knew I was seeing everything grey. There was no colour in my life, where Creatrix brought back everything into colour. Life, basically, because I didn't feel like I was living before.
Correct. And it was instantly noticeable for me. Instantly. I went, wow, what are the colours of everything? Where have I been? What am I doing? It was like somebody had switched my brain on, So it was great. And the betrayal, it was a little bit deeper. Nobody ever likes to feel like they've been betrayed, do they?
No.
And we kind of stick that in the back pocket too and move on. So that was a great one for me to get rid of. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Things don't bother me as much as they used to anymore. And I
Yeah.
just think, well, that's your way of thinking. I have my way of thinking, and that if they don't meet, well, then so what?
That's a great way to be, isn't it? So what? And it'd be really hard for people to say, well, how do you get to that place where you can say, so what? It's, I guess, with the process of Creatrix, it's getting back to knowing the you, getting back to you, getting to feel that you're important, that what you say matters. Where, how would you explain it? I'm trying to explain how that is for you, for someone listening to this and they're thinking, well, how the hell does that happen? How do you just let it go and not care about what other people think?
Well, I think because Creatrix, when you're doing Creatrix, it really gets down to the core of who you really are and who you actually want to be.
Mm.
Because we all, prior to that, you were getting around, you had this ideal life that you wanted to live, but everything was kind of just adding on top. Like, as I mentioned before, emotions are like layers, and so are events in your life, and even from past life, because as you know, it's been epigenetically proven that we inherit emotions. So everything kind of gets piled on top. And when you have Creatrix, it takes it all away, because you get to the core essence of who you are. You actually get put back to where you were before anything happened. And that's where the real healing starts, doesn't it? You can't really heal when you've got all this stuff happening on your head, or it's in your head, or that's happened to you. But when during the you can get back to where you were beforehand, and then you can heal yourself from there. And Creatrix puts everything into perspective in life, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And
it really does. It puts
that
everything in perspective.
Yeah, and that perspective comes from a deep wisdom that is inside of you. It's not somebody else trying to give you their opinion and force it in there, because that doesn't work. That conscious learning, that conscious advice, we can all give advice from how we're seeing life, but it's not necessarily what you need to know from within to have that perception change.
Yes, that's right. You know deep down how you really want to be and how you really want to live. But you get pulled in all directions by different opinions, whether it be people that you meet or social opinions or whatever. You get pulled in all directions. And it's very easy to lose sight of, well, I thought I wanted that, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I don't. But Creatrix brings you back to you, to your core essence, what you really want. And that's another reason why I say to women, it's very important for you to work out what your true core values are. Because how common is it to say to women, well, what's important to you? And they go, oh, I don't know. I just get up, go about my day. That's my life. Nothing big. But how can you truly be happy if you don't know what's really important to you? How can you live a true, authentic life being true to yourself, if you're not living a life that's true to what you value most, what's most important to you? And so Creatrix gives that to you. It's very easy for a woman to realize what's important to her and the way she wants to live once she's cleared out all the rust and the rust and the dust that's accumulated in your emotional sphere. When you can see clear from Creatrix, and then they go, oh yeah, well, that's really important to me. I didn't realize that before, but yeah, by golly, that is, and that's how I want to live.
Yeah, and I guess coming back to that color, I think for a lot of women, they are living in a black and white or a grey or it's not as bright as what it should be for absolutely all of us, but we get so used to it, these layers are piling on, and then we get used to living that, and then something happens, and then we just we get used to, we think we're dealing because we're just taking one foot in front of the other, and we keep on moving, we keep on doing what we have to do, so we get used to that new normal. And for so many, I think we're just totally unaware until we, sort of hit rock bottom. We don't realise how much of the vivid, beautiful colour we're missing out on, which is really.
I know. Yes, and I always think of that song by Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. Poor Amy Winehouse, rest her soul. She's, she was part of the 27 Club, passed away at 27 from drugs and alcohol and, lots of other influences that were in her life. I see somebody like that and I say, oh my God, gosh, she needed Creatrix. She may still be alive if she had Creatrix. But her song about everyone taking a piece of her boyfriend taking a piece of her, and her song was, you go out and go into the world and I go back to black.
Yeah.
So how many women are getting around in their shades of grey and their shades of black because somebody's taken a piece of them and they're stuck in their past and they're stuck in that greyness and colour and lack of colour, when Creatrix can give that colour back to them.
Yeah.
And go and paint the town whatever colour they want.
If we were all painting beautiful, bright colours, how amazing would the world be?
I know.
Power.
Be a lot better place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're with the women we meet and the women that we do set free, we're making it that way.
We're certainly, and there is a ripple going out into the world. Yeah.
Yes, because every heart that Creatrix sets free then goes on to set other hearts free, because really the woman is the center of everything that's around her. If the woman's not happy, then nobody else is happy, really.
Yeah.
The woman is the heart of everything.
Absolutely.
And a lot of women don't realise they are, but they are. When they're not happy, everyone around them is affected. Yeah.
I think a lot of, and I'm sure I did the same thing. I believed that I was doing the best I could. I believed I had a mask on that nobody else could tell what was really going on with me. They may not have known the depth or the actual specific emotions or whatever, but they felt my energy. They felt the sadness and the anger, or everything ended up being anger because I couldn't deal with the grief and the sadness and the loneliness and everything else. It come out as anger. I know that, yelling at people for absolutely no reason at all. So it comes out in some way, doesn't it, when you're living true and you're not feeling fully whole and complete.
Well, it's got to come out in some way, and it'll manifest itself in all sorts of negative patterns, won't it?
Yeah.
And we don't realise, and so many women that have Creatrix will see, to take a video of them before, and then after they've had Creatrix, they look at the same video and go, that can't have been me.
What?
Because you're totally unaware. Yeah, you're totally unaware of how you are. Because you don't get around with a camera reversed at you all the day going, wow, that's how I look. Oh, that's not good. Do you? Because you just get around in life, and it's not until somebody points out to you and goes, hey, do you realise, or, somebody's got to be strong enough to tell you, though. Yeah. And that's got to be someone close to you, otherwise you'll punch them. But
or you realise that you want something better. That there's
Or you've come to the point where you've just had enough, and you just know deep down that you need the change.
Yeah.
Or you see other women that are out there rocking their stuff, and you go, why can't I be like that? Well, you can be. You just have to be willing to step up and know that you need change and be willing to do the work to get the change. That's all. And it's easy. You just have to be ready, 100% ready to do it. Because you can't go in half-hearted, because that's only half a job, isn't
it? That's right. You have to want change for anything to change. Yeah. So, like when you were saying before that, the you released these couple and then you found that there was new stuff. Other women may realize, oh, well, this is a never ending thing, but you're only aware of what you've got at any given time. And then when those layers are gone, it's then when you realize, okay, well, I've moved on, I've stepped up a couple of steps. Now I want to do something else. And then there'll be some new blocks or some new triggers when you try and do something else. So that's when you go, okay, well, I know I can get rid of these as easy as the last time. So we go and manage to get rid of them again instead of continually getting stuck with new things if, you know, we get triggered along the way. I know doing video and talking to women was something that I had to work on, you know, because I'd never done that before. I got rid of the grief and sadness and loneliness and all of that stuff.
And you're doing a bloody good job of it too, I might
add.
Well, it's always going to be triggers because everyone's human. Like even Creatrix can't take away negative emotions because negative emotions are there to keep you safe. However, Creatrix takes away all the burn from it. You know, you'll never, something may affect you, but you'll go, oh, well, God, before I would have melted, but now I just think, oh, well, that's that. You know, we'll just move on. It takes away that, I don't know, how do you say it, sizzle from, or the burn from something that may really cause you to, I don't know, bring you to silence or totally disempower you. It may have done that in the past, but when you're faced with the same thing in the future, you'll go, yeah, well, okay, well, that's still a bit tough, but I can handle it. You know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I mean, I know when I met Maz, I did Creatrix, you know, I thought, now there's got to be a better way. And I actually came crashing down. I'd sort of taken on too much. I came crashing down and broke my shoulder to smithereens. And then I picked myself up after that. And I remember going to a Creatrix event with my shoulder in a sling because I thought, oh my God, I cannot get enough of this now. And I have to be there whether I'm dragging myself broken or not. So, you know, that's how powerful it was to me. And then I went through all the courses and everything and just loved it and loved what I could do and how I can help women. And I was running retreats and the women were coming through the retreats and it was all wonderful. And then I thought, you know what? Creatrix has done so much for me. Now I want to go back and do something that I've wanted to do all my life. And so I went back and I did 4 years of solid study to be a reflexologist, clinical reflexologist and a naturopath. Now, I went back and did that at 49 years of age. I was the oldest one in the class by far because I actually didn't even finish. I didn't do senior. I finished at year 10 because that's what you kind of did back when I was younger. We all wanted to get a job and be independent. And I always wanted to be, always wanted to be an educated person and a scholar and Creatrix gave me the courage to go back and even as a mature age student and step back and do that and walk into a classroom of younger women, take my place up with the best of them. And quite proud of myself too, because I think about naturopathy, I think has about an 80% dropout rate because it's so scientifically based and it's really is a hard course. Yeah. But, you know, I would just, whenever I doubted myself, I would just go on and have another Creatrix session and I'd be back up there with the best of them. And, you know, it was good. It allowed me, Creatrix has allowed me to do so much more in my life that I never thought that I was able to do.
Yeah. And having now that you've mentioned that, you can, for people watching, they, you know, you've had 4 years of training in science and in holistic healing, and you still believe that Creatrix is an amazing thing for women. You know, you're the science, probably you've just learned and grown and you've added more into how you help women. However, you know without a doubt that Creatrix is that awesome.
It's the bomb. It actually makes my job easier because because when women release all those negative emotions, their physical health improves.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
Because
that's good to hear it from someone like you that has had that science background and study to prove that.
Oh, yes, because it's a vagus nerve that runs from our brain to our gut. And, our emotions control our body. Our emotions and our mind, our emotions and our mind and our body are one. We are one being.
One being.
And everything affects everything. So if you think that it's just an emotional thing, all these physical issues aren't part of what derived from something emotional, well, you're killing yourself, really, because it's all there. I mean, if you get angry, it's livid, it's in the language, you store it in your liver. If you have anxiety, you hold it in your kidneys. It's why you get nervous wheeze. It's all there. Our grief sits in our lungs. So, when you do grieve, you tend to bend over and not breathe properly. You don't realize that you're not breathing. You're actually closing off part of your lung area because you're forgetting to breathe because you're feeling so heavy. And when you are in grief and sad, it feels heavy on your chest. So our emotions and our body and our mind, it's all combined. So when we lift the emotions from a woman, her physical health improves. Her libido soars, for one, because she's not bogged down with all the crap that's going on. I had one woman, her husband sent her back to the retreat a second time, and he said, you go back and get more of that, love, because you came back last time. We had fun. So women become more open and free and be able to go back to their goddess state, if you like, because they don't have all the emotional stuff weighing them down.
And the beliefs that I have to be a good girl, or good Catholic girls don't do that, or good women, we're not supposed to. There are a lot of beliefs around sex and love and acceptance and the whole lot that holds so many women stuck.
Yes. And it's funny you say that. My last client was brought up in a very religious family and was taught that sex was taboo and you don't talk about that. And we did Creatrix. I actually took her away on a private weekend and we did Creatrix for 7 hours. But that 7 hours, she was just like a new woman. She even said, "Oh my God, I feel like a warrior woman." and her marriage was they'd actually separated. And her husband wanted her to do Creatrix because he thought it may help. And she just could not wait to get back to her husband after we finished. And I've just received a page-long testimonial from him. He basically put out his heart saying, "My marriage is good again, thank you."
Yeah. There's so much deep, dark, murky crap that we're probably not even aware of until you start unlayering, peeling back the layers like an onion. There's just so many of them. But they stop us and keep us playing small in every area, don't they?
Yeah, it does. Well, he even said to me, I made mistakes in the past with my wife. I'm the first to admit it, but the past would never leave me because she was stuck there.
Yeah.
But he said, now the past is in the past and we're moving on together. So that was lovely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So that was very exciting to get that. And it's unusual for a man to actually sit down and put pen to paper like that. So it was
because he's so grateful.
Yes. Yeah. It was wonderful to receive that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's encouraging for other men too, that out there. I'm hoping that, he might say to his mates, your wife may need Creatrix if you're having trouble, because
instead of giving up on the marriage, perhaps there's an alternate route. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which offers much, much more than a counsellor does, who will sit there and, counsellors have their place too, but it depends. Prior to Creatrix, I'd been to a counsellor and you sit there and you just have to dig up everything.
Yeah.
And Creatrix is like a breath of fresh air because you don't do that.
Yeah, when I went, and I can't even think whether it was a counsellor, a psychologist, or what it was, but the moment I thought about the pain, I was just in tears. I couldn't even get anything out of my damn mouth because I'd just cry. The emotion was too close to the surface to make any sense of. I couldn't even get the words out. So it was a complete waste of time. I went 3 times, and I think the whole time I just cried the whole time I was there. So it did nothing for me at all. But
how can you heal in that state?
You can't. There's no chance of healing. No, you can't get away from that pain and that crying, and it's just, I don't know, it's like when you've had too much to eat, it's just sitting there and it won't go down, it's just there. Where, I can remember the weekend retreat with Maz, and it was, the 2 days of Creatrix, and I drove, 4 hours home, and there was no road rage, and I was smiling and I was singing to the radio, and I was just like, I can't believe that it's gone. Like it was like the colour was back, and I was seeing everything in a completely different way, and it was so.
And there's absolutely no head chatter.
No,
it's gone.
Yeah. No,
it's like someone pressed the stop button on the recording that was always going around in your head. Yeah. I had a lady that I know that actually had anger. She had really bad anger issues, and after Creatrix, she actually rang me and said, I'm at a loose end. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, because, well, I'm not angry anymore, and I've got all this spare time. and I said, we'll go do something good with it. And she said, but I've spent so much time being angry that it just burnt up all this spare time that I had, because I was just sitting in it and burning up all this energy and burning up all this extra time, sitting there stewing over and over and over in my head about different stuff that was making me just cringe in every way possible. But she said, and now I've got all this spare time because I don't have that head talk.
Yeah.
I said, well, go fill it up with good stuff now.
And I think a lot, too, I had a client Sunday and Monday, and both of them had anger. Well, one was rage. But I think it's how when there's so many layers, so much, and the pain is so intense, that's what comes out, so that's a layer that you sort of need to get on and work on before you get to all the other stuff. But anger, it's the one that comes out the easiest. We're yelling and we're biting at everyone and everything that sort of happens. That's how our emotions sort of come out.
Which is funny because, as I mentioned before about anger being, liver is livid. Our liver is a filter for our body.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're filtering all the stuff that's going on in your life, it's going to have a tinge of anger to it because it's your filter.
Yeah. It's all related, isn't it?
And it gets caught. It all gets stuck. It all gets stuck and builds up. It's like, corrosion, if you like. It is.
Yeah.
It's like corrosion in your mind.
Yeah.
That's a good term. I might use that one. It's like mind corrosion. because it is, isn't it?
Yeah, affecting everything down to all the blood vessels, like everything is being affected by the emotions that we hold in our body.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And the sooner that women realise that, the better off that they will be. That the physical manifestations are a good indication of where their emotional state is.
And they can get rid of that easily and painlessly to get back to living in colour, living beautiful and free. So what would you say to someone if they're watching, Leanne, and they feel like they've I can't even think of the word. they've resonated with what we've been saying, but there's just something they're thinking, it's just too good to be true, or I'm just not sure I believe these two women talking about it. What would you say?
Well, first of all, we're not paid actors. And secondly, there's just, we've experienced it. We had to experience it first, and then we went out and then we helped other women experience it. And the women that have that I've helped, they just haven't looked back. I had one woman who was suicidal, and she didn't tell me that when she came to my retreat, actually, and she didn't mention that. She told me that afterwards. She said, you were my last hope. Now that woman has gone on, she was stuck in a very male dominated industry. Her and her husband had this magnificently successful business, millions of dollars, but she was stuck in a male dominated field, and all she wanted to do was go and do art.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, since Creatrix just opened up the doors for her, she went home and she hired she left the retreat on the Sunday, honestly, and on the Monday she went and hired 4 staff to replace her so she could go and do her art.
Awesome.
Which is something she would never have contemplated. And now she's actually studied herself, and she's an art therapist now, and she teaches art. And she invited me to one of her exhibitions, and I went round and mentally calculated all the art that she had sold, and she'd sold $26,000 worth of art in 2 days. And all the women that have come to me, they've all gone on and they've set their goals, they've done them, because I always ask them, what's the first thing you're going to do? And I hold them accountable. I had one woman, she'd lost her husband to throat cancer. She married him at 18, had no children, never been with anybody else in her life, never had no family here. And I said, what's the first thing you're going to do? And she said, I'm going to go and swim with the jellyfish in Palau. I never even knew there were giant jellyfish in Palau. But that's the first thing she did. Now she's been all around the world. She's got her own business and she's remarried. Like, it's just time and time and time again, the women that come through your door or into your screen via Zoom, whenever you do it, they've all gone on to huge and wonderful things in their life that they never thought possible. And it's just, if it's possible for them, and they were average everyday women coming to me for help, and like the women that come to you, Maria, if they can do it, so can the next woman. And Creatrix does work 100% of the time if the woman's 100% ready. So I'd say to any woman watching this, if you're 100% ready for change,
sick and tired of living with the shit,
if you're sick and tired of being stressed, stuck, uninspired, overwhelmed, and heading to burnout, there is absolutely no need to be that way. Because you can just Creatrix it, set your heart free, and the world is yours.
Beautiful. And that's what, the reason for these conversations, Leanne, is to talk with everyday women about everyday women who have everyday struggles. They're things that everyone has, grief and sadness and, loss and betrayal and all the other things that we spoke about. It's something that so many women have. And to know that there's something that actually works, something that it's holistic, and it's freeing, it's peaceful, it's easy for women, but it will change how they live their life, how they then get to go on to be whatever they want to be, to do whatever they want to do, to feel whatever they want to feel.
Yes, and the best thing is that it's fast.
Yes.
You can have something that you rate 10 out of 10, with 10 being the worst thing you can feel. And within an hour, you'll ask that person to rate it again. They'll go, oh, maybe it's a 0, oh, maybe it's a 1, maybe, oh, no, I actually
Maybe.
don't feel it at all. Did I say that was a 10? I don't think I did. Well, yes, you did. I've actually recorded you and I've actually got it down on paper. So, yeah, it was a 10 an hour ago. So it's fast, it's effective, and it's long lasting.
Yeah, well, like you said, we're both going on 8, 9 years, something ridiculous like that, isn't it? Yeah, actually.
You never look back.
Mm.
You never look back.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Leanne, for coming and having a conversation with me, sharing your experiences and client experiences with Creatrix as well. I really appreciate it. And I hope that if there's just one woman who this resonates with and she reaches out to change her life, then we've done an amazing thing today. So I want to thank you for being here.
Go see Maria, or you can come and see me. whatever, but whatever. Just don't stay where you are now if you're suffering, because there is no need. Just step out, step into your big girl shoes and go make the change.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.